My name is Charles Wilson. I'm 66 years old, and for 2 years I fought cancer with everything I had. I spent my life savings, every penny, beating this disease. My son Daniel promised he'd take care of me. 3 days ago, he announced to an entire hospital full of doctors and patients, "Dad can't live alone anymore. We're moving into his house to take care of him." Yesterday, Daniel showed up with a moving truck. But when he rang the doorbell, a completely different person answered. Someone he'd never seen before. Someone who owned my house. The look on his face? Priceless. You see, while Daniel was planning to throw me into a nursing home and steal my house, I was planning something else entirely. Something he never saw coming. But before I tell you how I turned the tables on my own son, let me know in the comments, where are you watching from, and what time is it there? And don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. Let me take you back to the beginning. 30 years I wore that firefighter badge. 30 years of running toward danger while others ran away. I saved lives, pulled families from burning buildings, taught my children that duty comes before comfort. When my wife Sarah died in a car accident 12 years ago, I raised Daniel and his sister Amy alone. I taught them firefighter values: courage, integrity, putting family first. Daniel seemed to inherit every good quality I tried to instill: star athlete in high school, engineering degree from state, good job in software development. When he married Rebecca 5 years ago, I walked them both down the aisle. She seemed perfect for him: smart, ambitious, respectful to their old man. I thought I'd raised him right. I helped Daniel with his college loans, $28,000, helped with the down payment on their first house. Whenever they needed something, Dad was there. Christmas, birthdays, emergencies. I never said no. They were my legacy, my greatest accomplishment, better than any fire I'd ever put out. Daniel and Rebecca visited every Sunday after church, brought the grandkids, shared meals, told me about their dreams. Rebecca talked about going back to school for her master's degree. Daniel mentioned wanting to start his own consulting business someday. I listened, offered advice, opened my wallet when they needed help. Every sacrifice felt worth it. When Rebecca's car broke down, I paid for repairs. When Daniel's startup idea needed seed money, I liquidated some investments. When they struggled with the mortgage during COVID, I helped with payments. Never asked for anything in return except respect and love. That's what family does. Daniel always said the right things. "Dad, we'll take care of you when you're older. You'll never go to one of those nursing homes." Our kids need to know their grandfather. Words that warmed my heart, made me feel secure about growing old. I trusted completely. Signed papers when Daniel said they were for insurance purposes. Let him handle some of my finances when arthritis made writing difficult. He was my son, my flesh and blood. Why would I question his motives? 3 years ago, we had the conversation every aging parent dreads. I was 63, still healthy, but starting to think about the future. Daniel brought it up over Sunday dinner. "Dad, Rebecca and I want you to know something important." His voice was serious, caring. "When you get older, you're not going anywhere. No nursing homes, no assisted living. You raised us, now we'll take care of you." Rebecca nodded enthusiastically. "Your family, Charles. This house has enough room for all of us. The kids adore their grandfather." I felt tears in my eyes. After Sarah's death, I'd worried about ending up alone, forgotten in some institutional facility. But Daniel was promising something different: dignity, love, family care. "I mean it, Dad," Daniel continued. "We'll move in here if needed, or you can come live with us. Whatever works best. You'll never be alone." That conversation changed everything for me. I relaxed about retirement, stopped worrying about long-term care insurance, felt secure in my son's love. The promise gave me peace. Then I got the diagnosis that changed everything. March 15th, 2 years ago. Dr. Martinez's words hit like a sledgehammer. Stage 3 colon cancer. The room spun. My hands went cold. 64 years old, always healthy, always strong, suddenly mortal. What are my options? My voice sounded distant, hollow. Aggressive treatment, surgery, chemotherapy, radiation. It's going to be expensive and difficult, but you're strong enough to fight this. I called Daniel from the parking lot. My fingers shook as I dialed. "Dad? What's wrong?" He knew immediately something was off. "Son, I need you to sit down. I just left Dr. Martinez's office." My voice cracked. "I have cancer." Silence. Then, Dad, oh God, what kind? How bad? I explained everything. The treatment plan, the timeline, the costs. Daniel's response filled my heart with gratitude. Dad, listen to me. Rebecca and I are here for you. Whatever you need, rides to treatment, help with bills, someone to stay with you during recovery. We meant what we said about taking care of you. I had to choose. Fight or give up. That night I decided to fight. Not just for myself, but for more time with my family. Daniel and Rebecca promised to help with everything. I believed them completely. 18 months of hell followed. Chemotherapy every 2 weeks, radiation treatments, surgery to remove part of my colon. The cancer fought back hard, but I fought harder. Every penny of my life savings, gone. My retirement fund, $127,000, disappeared first. Then my investment portfolio. The life insurance policy I'd planned to leave the kids got cashed out. Medical bills stacked up like cordwood. $47,000 for surgery, $89,000 for chemo, $34,000 for radiation, countless smaller bills for tests, medications, specialist visits. Daniel helped manage the paperwork. Don't worry about the money, Dad. Focus on getting better. The house is paid off. That's what matters. The house. 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, nice neighborhood. Worth about $425,000 according to the tax assessment. After Sarah died, I'd considered selling it, moving somewhere smaller. But Daniel convinced me to stay. This is our family home, Dad. Where we grew up, where you'll watch your grandchildren grow up. Don't let some financial advisor talk you into leaving. So I stayed. The house became my anchor during treatment, my reason to keep fighting. Daniel was right. It was our family home. When treatment ended, we'd all be together there. Daniel and Rebecca showed up consistently during treatment. Daniel drove me to appointments when I felt too weak. Rebecca brought homemade soup, cleaned the house, organized my medications. They seemed genuinely caring, genuinely concerned. Dad, you're going to beat this, Daniel would say, holding my hand during chemo sessions. And when you do, we'll have so many good years together. I trusted them with everything. During my sickest months, Daniel helped with bills, organized insurance claims, even had me sign some documents to make things easier. Power of attorney papers, he explained, insurance beneficiary updates, medical directive forms. This way, if something happens and you can't make decisions, Rebecca and I can handle everything. We'll make sure you get the best care. It all seemed reasonable. I was too sick to handle complex paperwork anyway. My hands shook from the chemo. My mind felt foggy from the medications. Having Daniel manage the practical stuff let me focus on survival. Rebecca researched clinical trials, found specialists, advocated with insurance companies. They seemed like the perfect caregiving team. Other patients at the cancer center commented on how lucky I was to have such devoted family. I felt grateful every day for their support. February 12th this year. Dr. Martinez delivered the words I'd prayed to hear. Charles, your latest scans are clear. No signs of active cancer. You're officially in remission. I cried right there in his office. 2 years of fighting, of pain, of uncertainty over. I was going to live, really live. Daniel and Rebecca organized a celebration. Dad, this calls for a party. We'll invite the whole family, all your firefighter buddies, everyone who supported you through this. The relief was overwhelming, not just about beating cancer, but about my future. Daniel's promise echoed in my mind. We'll take care of you. Now I could look forward to growing old with dignity, surrounded by family who loved me. But strange things started happening. Daniel's phone calls became more frequent, more private. He'd step outside to take them, speaking in low voices I couldn't quite hear. Rebecca spent hours on her laptop, researching things she wouldn't discuss. When I asked what they were working on, they deflected. Just planning some surprises for your recovery celebration, Dad. Don't worry about it. But something felt off. The way they looked at each other during conversations, the way they changed subjects when I entered rooms, the way Daniel's questions became more financial. 3 weeks after my remission announcement, the whispered conversations started. Daniel would get calls and immediately leave the room. Through thin walls, I caught fragments. Timeline moved up. Property assessment. Facility has availability. Something was happening behind my back. When I asked directly, Daniel brushed me off. Work stuff, Dad. boring technical calls about projects. But his eyes wouldn't meet mine. Rebecca would suddenly find tasks in other rooms when Daniel's phone rang. One evening, I pretended to nap in my recliner while Daniel took a call in the kitchen. His voice carried just enough for me to hear key phrases after the celebration. Once he's settled. Equity calculation. My chest tightened. Those weren't work calls. Someone was making plans involving me, involving my property, involving my future. Plans they didn't want me to know about. I started paying closer attention. Daniel's visits became more purposeful, less social. He'd ask about my medications, my daily routines, my ability to handle complex decisions. Rebecca researched things on her phone constantly, hiding the screen when I approached. The loving son and daughter-in-law were becoming something else, something calculating. Daniel's questions became more personal, more intrusive. During what should have been celebration visits, he probed my finances with uncomfortable intensity. "Dad, have you updated your will lately? With your health scare, maybe we should review your estate planning. How's your savings account looking? Are you worried about future medical costs? This house is a lot for one person to maintain. Have you thought about simplifying your living situation?" The questions got more personal. Rebecca joined in with seemingly innocent comments. "Charles, my student loans are really weighing us down." Or, "Daniel's been so stressed about our mortgage payments." I started feeling like a problem to be solved rather than a father to be loved. Every conversation steered toward money, property values, my capabilities as an aging man. They weren't asking out of concern. They were gathering information. When I mentioned seeing a financial planner, Daniel immediately volunteered to help. "Dad, those guys just want to sell you products. Let me review your situation first." When I suggested updating my insurance, Rebecca offered to research policies. "I know someone in that business. They wanted control of my financial picture. But why?" Last month, a stranger knocked on my door. Professional-looking woman with a clipboard and measuring tape. "Mr. Wilson, I'm Janet from Premier Real Estate. Your son Daniel scheduled an appraisal for insurance purposes." I started recording our conversations. I invited her in, confused but cooperative. She measured rooms, photographed fixtures, asked about recent improvements. Professional, thorough, expensive-looking assessment. "Beautiful home," she commented. "In this market, I'd estimate around $425,000. Maybe more with the right buyer." After she left, I called Daniel. "Son, what was that appraisal about?" "Oh, that." His voice was casual, practiced. "Insurance company wanted an updated valuation. You know how they are about making sure coverage matches current values. But something felt wrong." I'd dealt with insurance companies for decades. They don't typically send appraisers to your house for routine updates. They use online valuations or ask for receipts. That night, I did something I'd never imagined doing. I started recording our phone conversations. My old cell phone had a recording app I'd never used. If Daniel was planning something behind my back, I wanted evidence. The device felt foreign in my hands, but my firefighter instincts kicked in. Document everything. Prepare for the worst. 2 weeks ago, I found them, hidden in Daniel's car while he used my bathroom. Glossy brochures for Sunnybrook Manor Senior Living. The tagline made my blood run cold. Compassionate care for loved ones who can no longer live independently. Inside, photos of elderly people in wheelchairs, descriptions of memory care units and assisted living suites. Monthly costs, $4,500 to $6,800. Application forms were tucked inside, partially completed. My name was already filled in. Daniel returned to his car, saw me holding the brochures. His face flushed red. "Dad, I can explain." "Explain what, son? Explain why you're researching nursing homes without telling me?" "It's just, we want to be prepared, in case your health declines again. These places have waiting lists. My health is fine. Dr. Martinez says I'm cancer-free." "But Dad, you're 66. Things can change quickly at your age." The conversation felt rehearsed, like he'd prepared these answers. Rebecca emerged from my house, saw the tension, immediately sided with Daniel. "Charles, we're just trying to plan ahead. For your safety. My safety. Not my happiness, not my preferences. My safety." Then came my discharge day from the hospital, March 18th. The hospital organized a small ceremony for cancer survivors completing treatment. Nurses who'd cared for me, Dr. Martinez, other patients I'd befriended during chemo, A celebration of life, of beating the odds, of hope. I thought they were there to celebrate with me. I dressed carefully that morning. Clean shirt, my best slacks, the firefighter pin Sarah gave me years ago. This was my victory day, my return to normal life. I felt proud, grateful, ready for whatever came next. Daniel and Rebecca arrived early, dressed professionally. Rebecca carried a small bouquet, thoughtful gesture. Daniel brought his phone, kept checking messages. Their behavior seemed slightly off, but I attributed it to nerves. Big family moments make everyone emotional. Dr. Martinez spoke first, praising my strength during treatment. Charles fought this disease with the same courage he showed as a firefighter. He's an inspiration to our entire staff. Other survivors shared their stories. Maria, 54, breast cancer. Frank, 71, lung cancer. Each of us warriors who'd stared death down and won. The room felt warm, supportive, filled with hope. Then Dr. Martinez invited family members to speak. Would anyone like to share thoughts about Charles's journey? Daniel stood up immediately, too quickly, like he'd been waiting for this moment. Thank you, doctor. I'd like to say something about my father. He walked to the front of the room. Rebecca smiled encouragingly. I felt proud, my son wanting to honor me publicly. But something in his posture felt wrong, too confident, too prepared. Daniel faced the room of doctors, nurses, patients, and families. His voice was clear, practiced, emotional in all the right places. My father, Charles Wilson, is the strongest man I know. For 2 years he fought cancer with incredible courage. But fighting this disease has taken its toll. I felt the first cold finger of dread. Dad can't live alone anymore after everything his body has been through. The treatments, the medications, the physical strain. It's left him vulnerable. Everyone thought he was a hero. The room nodded sympathetically. Other families understood the challenges of post-cancer care. I wanted to interrupt, to correct him, but the words stuck in my throat. That's why Rebecca and I have made a decision. We're moving into Dad's house to provide the round-the-clock care he needs. It's the least we can do after everything he's sacrificed for our family. Applause filled the room. Warm, genuine appreciation for a devoted son. Dr. Martinez smiled approvingly. Nurses wiped away tears. Other patients looked at Daniel with admiration. This is what family means, Daniel continued. When someone you love needs help, you step up. You make sacrifices. You put their needs first. More applause. Someone said, That's beautiful. Rebecca beamed like a proud wife. Daniel looked humble, noble, selfless. But I heard something else in his words, something the room missed. The phrase, round-the-clock care. I didn't need that. Everything he sacrificed. What sacrifices? And most chilling, the assumption that I couldn't speak for myself. The room saw a loving son. I saw a performance. After the ceremony, people congratulated Daniel, shook his hand, praised his devotion, called him an example for other adult children. He soaked up the attention, played the role perfectly. But I had one card left to play. During the reception, I excused myself to use the bathroom. On my way back, I heard Daniel and Rebecca in a corner, speaking quietly to someone I didn't recognize. Have him move by the weekend, Daniel was saying. Sunnybrook has an opening and the timing couldn't be better. My blood turned to ice. The equity loan should go through Monday, Rebecca added. Once we're established as his caregivers, the bank paperwork will be simpler. The stranger nodded. And you're sure about the timeline? These arrangements work best when family is cooperative. Daniel laughed. Dad's been through chemo. He's not exactly in fighting shape. Besides, we're doing this for his own good. What about legal challenges? From who? His other daughter lives in California, barely visits. Dad doesn't have close friends anymore. Once he's settled at Sunnybrook, this will all seem natural. Finally cashing out. They weren't moving in to care for me. They were moving me out to claim my house. The public announcement was theater, creating witnesses to their sacrifice before disappearing me into institutional care. The bank loan. They were borrowing against my house equity, money they'd pocket while I paid nursing home fees until death. I stood there listening, my heart pounding, my hands shaking with rage and betrayal. Everything clicked into place. The financial questions, the nursing home research, the property appraisal. They'd been planning this for months. I walked back to the reception on unsteady legs. Daniel saw me coming, immediately shifted into caring son mode. Dad, there you are. How are you feeling? You look tired." "I'm fine, son." But I wasn't fine. I was devastated, furious, and completely clear about what I had to do. When Dr. Martinez asked if anyone else wanted to speak, I stood up. The room quieted respectfully. "I want to thank my son Daniel," I began, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "He's promised to take care of everything." Daniel smiled proudly. Rebecca squeezed his hand. "Daniel has always been thoughtful about planning ahead. Sometimes he thinks of things before I do." More nods of approval from the audience. I'm grateful for family who pay such close attention to details, who research options carefully, who make sure all the paperwork is in order. The words had double meanings only I understood. Daniel heard praise. I was cataloging his deceptions. In fact, Daniel has taught me something important about family, about who you can really count on when life gets difficult. The audience was moved by this father-son moment. Daniel looked emotional, touched by my public gratitude. "So thank you, son, for showing me exactly who you are." Only I heard the real message in those words. Daniel heard loving appreciation. I was saying goodbye to the son I thought I knew. That night, I made the phone call that changed everything. But here's my question for you. If you discovered your own child was planning to abandon you after everything you'd sacrificed, what would you do? Would you confront them directly, or would you plan your own counterattack? Let me know in the comments. 10:30 p.m. I sat in my kitchen, staring at my phone. My hands shook as I dialed Patricia Anderson's number. Patricia had been waiting for my call. "Charles? I was wondering when you'd reach out." Patricia was my late wife, Sarah's sister. Retired family lawyer, sharp as a tack at 68, never liked Daniel much. She'd seen through his charm years ago. "Patricia, remember those papers we signed 6 months ago?" "Of course. The conditional property transfer. Has Daniel triggered the activation clause?" 6 months earlier, when Daniel's financial questions first made me suspicious, I'd called Patricia for advice. She'd suggested a legal safeguard, transfer the house to her with conditions that would return it to Daniel only if he demonstrated genuine care. He just announced publicly that he's moving in to care for me, but I overheard him planning to put me in Sunnybrook Manor this weekend. The nursing home? Charles, I'm so sorry, but this activates the permanent transfer clause. You're sure the paperwork will hold up? Absolutely. The house has been legally mine for 6 months. Daniel has no claim to it whatsoever. And the other thing we discussed? I've been documenting everything per your request. Daniel doesn't know what's coming. Let me explain what Patricia and I had set up. 6 months ago, during my cancer treatment, I started noticing Daniel's excessive interest in my finances. Small things. Too many questions about insurance. Too much eagerness to help with paperwork. Daniel had already failed the test. A firefighter learns to spot danger early. Something felt wrong, so I called Patricia for advice. She suggested a legal trap. Transfer ownership of the house to her immediately, with conditions that would return it to Daniel only if he proved himself trustworthy. The conditions were simple. Daniel had to demonstrate genuine care for at least 1 year. No pushing for nursing homes. No pressure to move. No attempts to access house equity. If he passed the test, he'd inherit everything as planned. If he failed, if he tried to exploit me financially or emotionally, the house would remain Patricia's permanently. It's like a reverse trust, Patricia explained. Instead of giving him inheritance and hoping he'll be grateful, we make him earn it by showing actual love. The transfer happened during one of my chemotherapy sessions. Daniel never knew about it. He continued planning his schemes, unaware that the house he coveted was no longer mine to give. Patricia had been busy. While Daniel schemed, she documented everything. I hired a private investigator to monitor Daniel's activities, legal, above-board surveillance. The plan was already in motion. We have photographs of him meeting with nursing home administrators, recordings of his conversations with real estate investors. Yes, Charles, he's been trying to sell your house to speculators. My stomach dropped. He's selling the house? Future sale contracts. He borrowed money against what he thought would be his inheritance. The investors are expecting to purchase the property when you're no longer around. How much money? $150,000. He told them you had advanced dementia and wouldn't live much longer. The betrayal was even worse than I'd imagined. Daniel wasn't just planning to warehouse me in a nursing home, he was actively profiting from my anticipated death. There's more, Patricia continued. The nursing home is paying him a referral fee for bringing in new residents. Every person he convinces to move there puts money in his pocket. So he gets paid for putting me away and gets paid again when I die? Exactly. But tomorrow, his world changes forever. Saturday morning, 9 a.m. I wasn't at the house when Daniel arrived with his moving truck. Daniel had no idea what hit him. I watched from Patricia's car parked across the street. Daniel, Rebecca, and 2 professional movers pulled up to my house with a 26-foot truck. Daniel looked confident, victorious. Rebecca carried boxes marked Daniel's office and Rebecca's clothes. They expected to walk into their new home. Patricia emerged from the front door as they approached. Daniel's confused expression was priceless. He'd never seen Patricia before, had no idea who this elderly woman was or why she had keys to his house. "Excuse me," Daniel called out. "I think there's been some mistake. This is my father's house." "No mistake," Patricia replied calmly. "I'm Patricia Anderson, and I'm the current legal owner of this property." Daniel laughed, certain she was confused. "Lady, I don't know who you are, but my father Charles Wilson owns this house. We're moving in to take care of him." Patricia produced a manila folder. "Mr. Wilson, I have legal documents that might interest you." Rebecca stepped forward aggressively. "What documents? Who are you?" "I'm a retired attorney and Charles's sister-in-law. 6 months ago, Charles transferred ownership of this property to me through a conditional trust arrangement." Daniel's face changed. Confusion became concern, became panic. "That's impossible. Dad would have told me about something like that." "Would he? The same way you told him about your nursing home plans? Or your equity loan application? Or your conversations with real estate speculators?" The color drained from Daniel's face. Rebecca grabbed his arm. "I don't know what you're talking about," Daniel stammered. "Really? Then you won't mind if I play some recordings I've been asked to share with you?" Patricia pulled out a small digital recorder. Patricia handed Daniel a thick legal document. "Warranty deed, filed with the county 6 months ago. Charles Wilson transferred full ownership of this property to Patricia Anderson on September 15th. But that wasn't the worst part." Daniel flipped through pages, his hands shaking. Rebecca read over his shoulder, her face growing pale. "This can't be legal. Dad was on chemotherapy. He wasn't thinking clearly." "Actually," Patricia said, "Charles was quite clear. He suspected you might not have his best interests at heart. He wanted to test your motivations before finalizing his estate plans." "Test? What test?" "Simple. Demonstrate genuine care for 1 year. No pressure for nursing homes. No attempts to access house equity. No treating him like a burden." Daniel's voice cracked. "We were going to care for him. In Sunnybrook Manor? After taking out a $150,000 equity loan against property you don't own?" Rebecca's eyes went wide. "How do you know about—" "Because your husband has been committing fraud, Mrs. Wilson. He borrowed money against a house that's been mine for 6 months. Patricia produced more documents, bank statements, loan applications, property assessments, all bearing Daniel's forged signatures, claiming ownership of my house. Your husband told First National Bank that he was the primary owner of this property. He used forged power of attorney documents to apply for an equity line of credit." Daniel sat down on the front steps, head in his hands. "Dad said I could handle his finances. Charles gave you limited power of attorney for medical decisions and bill paying, not for borrowing money against property he no longer owned." The moving truck driver approached. "Folks, I need to know what's happening here. Do we unload or not?" Patricia looked at Daniel with cold satisfaction. "I'd suggest not. These people don't live here." Rebecca was crying now. "Where's Charles? We need to talk to Charles. Charles is somewhere safe, away from people who view him as a financial opportunity." Patricia pressed play on her digital recorder. Daniel's voice filled the morning air, clear and damning. "Just waiting for the old man to kick the bucket, you know? Then we can finally cash out and upgrade our living situation." The recording continued. Rebecca's voice. "God, I'm so tired of pretending to care about his health updates. Like, we get it. You survived cancer." But that wasn't the worst part. Daniel again. "The beauty of Sunnybrook is they take over all his assets to pay for care. By the time he dies, there won't be much left anyway, but we'll already have the equity loan money." Rebecca's voice on the recording grew excited. "And the referral bonus from the nursing home? 5,000 for every resident we bring them. Plus, Jim knows someone who will buy the house above market value once Dad's out of the picture." Patricia stopped the recording. The moving crew, Daniel, Rebecca, even neighbors who'd gathered, everyone stared in shock. "There are 23 recorded conversations," Patricia announced. "Each one more damning than the last." Daniel found his voice. "Dad was recording us? His own family?" "His own family was planning to exploit him. Charles did what any smart person would do. He gathered evidence." "This is entrapment." "No, Mr. Wilson, this is documentation. Your father legally recorded conversations in his own home with people he suspected were defrauding him." Patricia produced her phone. "I'm now calling Adult Protective Services, the State Banking Commission, and the FBI's Elder Fraud Division." Rebecca panicked. "FBI? Why the FBI?" "Because your husband committed federal banking fraud when he used fake documents to borrow money. Because he engaged in conspiracy to commit elder abuse. Because he established fraudulent contracts with real estate investors." The FBI was already investigating. Daniel stood up unsteadily. Can we work something out? We never meant for things to go this far." "Too late for that," Patricia said, dialing. "Charles gave you every opportunity to do the right thing." Within 30 minutes, 3 official vehicles arrived: Adult Protective Services investigator, county banking fraud detective, and FBI special agent. Patricia had been coordinating with authorities for weeks. I walked away and never looked back. From my position across the street, I watched Daniel's world collapse in real time. The APS investigator reviewed the nursing home documents Daniel had completed without my knowledge. The banking detective examined the fraudulent loan applications. The FBI agent collected evidence of the real estate conspiracy. "Mr. Wilson," the FBI agent addressed Daniel, "you're not under arrest at this time, but we need you to answer questions about several financial transactions involving this property." Daniel tried to explain, but each answer dug him deeper. He'd borrowed money against property he didn't own. He'd signed legal documents claiming ownership he didn't have. He'd entered contracts to sell property that wasn't his. Rebecca became hysterical. "This is harassment. Charles is his father. Of course Daniel would inherit the house." "Ma'am," the APS investigator explained patiently, "inheritance happens after death. Your husband was treating Mr. Wilson as if he were already deceased." The moving crew, uncomfortable with the legal drama, began packing their truck to leave. Daniel frantically tried to stop them. "Wait, we need to figure this out. There's been a misunderstanding." The moving company supervisor shook his head. "Sir, we can't unload your belongings into a house you don't have legal access to. That would make us accessories to trespassing." Neighbors gathered on porches, watching the spectacle. Daniel and Rebecca, who'd played the roles of devoted children publicly, were being exposed as fraudsters and elder abusers. Patricia approached the FBI agent. "Agent Morrison, I have additional evidence to share: financial records, recorded conversations, documentation of the nursing home kickback scheme." As I walked to Patricia's car, I heard Daniel call out desperately, Dad, where are you? We can work this out." But I was done working things out with him. That evening, Daniel found me at Patricia's house. He looked broken, hair disheveled, eyes red, desperate. "Dad, please, let me explain. Some bridges can't be rebuilt." I met him on the front porch. Patricia stayed inside, giving us privacy for what would be our last conversation as father and son. "Explain what, Daniel? That you borrowed money against my house? That you planned to put me in a nursing home for profit? That you've been waiting for me to die? It wasn't like that. We were trying to plan for your future. My future or yours?" Daniel broke down. "Dad, I made mistakes, terrible mistakes, but I'm your son. I love you. You love my money. You love my property. You don't love me." I pulled out an envelope containing everything he'd given me over the years. Photos from his childhood, letters he'd written from college, the watch I'd planned to give him as inheritance. These belonged to someone who existed once, my son Daniel, but that person is gone. "Dad, don't do this. We're family." Family doesn't record conversations planning your death. Family doesn't forge documents. Family doesn't profit from your suffering. "Please, give me another chance." I looked at this man who looked like my son but wasn't anymore. Daniel, you're 42 years old. If you haven't learned basic human decency by now, you never will. What about the kids? They love their grandfather. They can visit Patricia's house if Rebecca allows it, but you and I are done. He begged for 20 more minutes, promised to make amends, go to counseling, pay everything back. But trust, once shattered completely, doesn't heal with words. I walked inside and closed the door. Words spread fast in our small town. Cancer survivor exploited by greedy son. The story had everything: sympathy, outrage, shock, vindication. The shame followed them everywhere. My firefighter colleagues rallied around me. Captain Rodriguez called to offer support. Charles, we've got your back. What Daniel did, that's not what we taught our kids. The hospital staff who'd witnessed Daniel's performance felt disgusted. Dr. Martinez reached out personally. Charles, I'm so sorry. We all thought he was such a devoted son. Local news picked up the story. Not using names, but everyone knew. Local man prevents elder abuse through legal planning. The reporter interviewed Patricia about protective strategies for seniors. Daniel and Rebecca became pariahs overnight. Rebecca lost her job when her employer learned about the fraud investigation. Daniel's consulting clients terminated contracts. Their church asked them to take time away from leadership roles. At the grocery store, former friends avoided eye contact. At Rebecca's salon, conversation stopped when she entered. Their children's school friends' parents suddenly had scheduling conflicts for playdates. The social consequences were swift and brutal. Our community takes care of its elderly. People who exploit vulnerable seniors don't get second chances here. Patricia and I attended the weekly cancer survivor support group together. Other survivors were amazed by the story. Charles showed us something important, said Maria, the breast cancer survivor. We need to protect ourselves legally while we're healthy enough to think clearly. Frank, the lung cancer survivor, nodded. Family loyalty can't be assumed. It has to be proven. The support group became my new family. People who understood the value of genuine care versus fake devotion. Patricia's guest house became my sanctuary. 1 bedroom, small kitchen, private entrance, perfect for an aging firefighter who valued independence and peace. Daniel's consequences were just beginning. Patricia had converted the space years ago for her own aging mother. Fully accessible, comfortable, designed for senior living. But unlike Sunnybrook Manor, it came with respect, dignity, and genuine family care. Charles, you'll pay reasonable rent, maintain your independence, and have family nearby without being a burden, Patricia explained. This is how elder care should work. Patricia's adult children, my late wife's nieces, welcomed me warmly. They visited regularly, included me in family gatherings, treated me like beloved uncle rather than financial opportunity. I joined the local cancer survivor support group, volunteered with the fire department's safety education program, and found purpose beyond being someone's inheritance. Real family relationships, I learned, aren't about blood or obligation. They're about choice, respect, and genuine care. Patricia helped me establish new routines: morning coffee together, evening walks, shared meals when we wanted company, independence when I needed space. The perfect balance. You know, Patricia said one evening, Sarah would be proud of how you handled this situation. You think so? She always said you were the smartest man she knew. She'd love that you outsmarted Daniel while staying completely within the law. My new life was smaller but richer. Fewer relationships but authentic ones. Less money but more peace. No biological family but true family. Daniel drove by occasionally, slowing down, staring at the guest house. I'd see his car from my window but never acknowledged him. He'd made his choices. Now he lived with consequences. Patricia always said, "Some people don't deserve second chances, Charles. Save your energy for people who appreciate you." Daniel's financial world crumbled quickly. The $150,000 fraudulent loan came due immediately when the bank discovered the ownership discrepancy. Money had destroyed his family. Since Daniel couldn't repay money borrowed against property he didn't own, the bank initiated collection proceedings. His credit score plummeted. Other creditors accelerated payment demands. Rebecca's income disappeared when her employer terminated her for reputation concerns. Their corporate clients didn't want association with elder abuse scandals. Daniel's consulting business evaporated as clients distanced themselves. Their house went into foreclosure within 6 months. The equity loan Daniel had been so eager to secure became the instrument of his financial destruction. Rebecca filed for divorce by Christmas. "I married someone I thought was honorable," she told the divorce mediator. "I can't raise my children with a man who steals from sick, elderly people." Daniel moved into a studio apartment across town. His children visited every other weekend per court order, but the relationship was strained. They'd overheard enough adult conversations to understand that Daddy had done something terrible to Grandpa Charles. The real estate investors who'd paid Daniel up front for future property rights sued him for fraud and conspiracy. Legal bills mounted. The criminal charges were serious: banking fraud, elder abuse, conspiracy to commit real estate fraud, forgery of legal documents. But the personal cost was higher. Daniel's court-appointed attorney negotiated a plea bargain: 18 months probation, 300 hours community service, mandatory restitution to all victims, and permanent reporting to Adult Protective Services database. "Mr. Wilson," the judge said during sentencing, "you violated the most basic trust, the obligation to protect vulnerable family members. Your father survived cancer only to be victimized by his own son." The restitution amount was staggering: $150,000 to the bank, $25,000 to the real estate investors, $5,000 in legal fees to various parties. Daniel would be making payments for decades. His community service assignment was particularly appropriate: volunteering at senior centers, helping elderly people with basic tasks. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The elder abuse conviction meant Daniel could never work in healthcare, finance, or any field involving vulnerable populations. His engineering career pivoted to manual labor jobs that would hire someone with a criminal record. Rebecca's divorce was finalized quickly. She received primary custody and moved back to her parents' home 2 states away. Daniel's children became weekend visitors, then occasional holiday contacts. Daniel's social circle disappeared completely. Friends, colleagues, neighbors, everyone distanced themselves from the man who'd exploited his cancer-surviving father. He had lost everything that mattered. Church members, once close friends, avoided conversation. "We can't understand how someone could do that to their own parent," former friends whispered. Daniel's own sister Amy cut contact completely. "You're not the brother I grew up with," she told him in their final phone call. "What you did to Dad is unforgivable." Professional networking events became uncomfortable. Word spread quickly in business circles about Daniel's criminal conviction. Job opportunities evaporated. Even casual acquaintances, neighbors, store clerks, service providers, treated him differently. His story had become cautionary tale told throughout the community. Dating became impossible. Background checks revealed criminal history. Women who learned about the elder abuse conviction ended relationships immediately. "I can forgive many things," one date told him, "but not someone who steals from their sick father." Daniel's isolation was complete and self-inflicted. Every choice he'd made led to this outcome: alone, financially ruined, socially ostracized, legally constrained. The man who'd once felt entitled to my house, my money, my future, now had nothing. 2 years later, Daniel made his final attempt at reconciliation. Christmas card addressed to me at Patricia's house, return address carefully handwritten. "Dad, I think about you every day. I know I made terrible mistakes. Can we talk?" He had lost everything that mattered. I read the card once, then discarded it. Phone calls to Patricia's landline, blocked. Letters forwarded by mutual acquaintances, unopened. Third-party mediation requests through former colleagues, declined. Amy called from California. "Dad, Daniel asked me to reach out. He says he's learned from his mistakes." "What has he learned, Amy? That he was wrong? Wrong about what, specifically?" Long pause. He didn't say, "Until Daniel can articulate exactly what he did and why it was unforgivable, we have nothing to discuss." I'd chosen peace over false reconciliation. Daniel wanted forgiveness without accountability, relationship without consequences. Some bridges, once burned, should stay burned. Daniel's attempts grew more desperate as time passed. Birthday cards, anniversary remembrances, copies of newspaper articles about fire department activities, all ignored. Patricia supported my decision completely. "Charles, you don't owe him anything. Protect your peace." One more surprise was waiting. In my pocket, I still carry the plastic hospital bracelet from my cancer treatment. Faded now, barely legible, but precious to me in ways Daniel never understood. Charles Wilson, DOB, March 15, 1957, Oncology Unit, treatment complete. In my pocket, I carry the truth. That bracelet represents more than medical care. It represents the clarity that comes from facing death and surviving. The wisdom of understanding who shows up during your darkest moments versus who shows up for your assets. Cancer didn't just save my life. It saved me from Daniel's betrayal. Without that illness, I might never have discovered his true nature. I might have died peacefully, thinking I was leaving my legacy to a loving son, when actually I'd have been feeding a parasite. The bracelet reminds me daily, gratitude for genuine relationships, boundaries against exploitation, and the difference between family by blood versus family by choice. Patricia's adult children treat me better than my biological son ever did. They call regularly, visit frequently, include me in holidays, ask my advice, share their lives willingly. Real family behavior. I survived cancer. I survived Daniel's betrayal. And now at 68, I'm thriving in authentic relationships with people who value me as a person, not a portfolio. Family means everything to the right people. DNA doesn't create obligation. Character does. Gratitude can't be taught or demanded, only demonstrated. And sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is let them face the full consequences of their choices. Daniel taught me that love isn't about what people say during good times. It's about what they do during your worst moments. When I was bald from chemo, weak from radiation, vulnerable and scared, Daniel saw opportunity instead of someone to protect. Patricia's family saw someone to cherish. Don't confuse DNA with character. Some people are family because of genetics. Others are family because they choose to be. The second group is far more valuable. If you're facing similar situations, adult children who see you as a burden, relatives who ask too many financial questions, family members who seem more interested in your will than your wellness, protect yourself legally while you're still strong enough to think clearly. Some relationships cost more than they're worth. Choose your family wisely. To everyone listening, love the people who love you back. Set boundaries with people who don't. And never, ever let someone profit from your vulnerability. That's the only inheritance advice worth giving. If this story hit you hard, subscribe and hit the notification bell. I've got more stories about family betrayal, justice served, and people who thought they could take advantage of the elderly. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next.